Welcome to the deep dive. We often think about progress, about finding solutions, but what if the way we frame the problems, the very way we think about solving them, is, well, part of the problem itself?
Hmm. That's a really crucial question. And our sources today suggest the answer might lie in something called Nexus thinking.
Nexus thinking. Okay, what does that actually mean?
Well, it's basically this interdisciplinary way of looking at things, seeing how seemingly separate systems like water, energy, food, even ecosystems are all deeply fundamentally interconnected.
Right, like pulling one string affects everything else.
Exactly. And it means that, the choices we make today, they're actively shaping the world of tomorrow, sending ripples through all these connected systems.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we're doing something a bit different. We're taking this imaginative leap back to 1975. Picture it. A classroom, it's 5 years after the first Earth Day. The EPA has just been set up.
And these students are about to encounter this, well, frankly, amazing piece of technology described in our sources, the Nexus Thinking Augmented Reality Portal, the NTARP.
NTARP. Sounds like something out of sci-fi.
It kind of was. The sources describe it as this experimental holographic system, maybe a descendant of that old 1968 VR headset, the Sword of Damocles, developed by USF and NASA, designed to let them see, well, possible futures. To fast forward 50 years to 2025 from their viewpoint.
Wow. So they could actually see the consequences of different ways of thinking.
That was the idea. And our mission today is really to explore these different logics, as the sources call them. We'll look at why just trying to, do less harm. Logic 2, why that often falls short, really short sometimes,
And contrast that with what?
with actively trying to make things ever better. That's logic 3. And understanding why that approach is so crucial for a future that's not just sustainable, but actually, thriving. And interestingly, it connects to STEAM education.
STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, art, math, and music.
In music, yeah. It suggests this really holistic way of thinking is needed to activate this kind of change.
Okay, let's go back to that 1975 classroom. The sources mention students grappling with this. One kid #1, is hearing from his dad, hey, Vietnam's ending, Earth Day worked, everything's fine. But then another student, Sophie, she's worried.
Yeah, she's saying, wait, are we still running out of clean water? Aren't animals going extinct? Is the climate changing? Real concerns, even back then.
So how did they bridge that gap? How were they introduced to this idea that their thinking was key?
Well, enter Dr. Joseph Dorsey, an urban planner,
Yeah.
and Professor Culthane, an ecological designer. They bring in this NTHARP portal,
The holographic future viewer.
right, developed by USF, NASA,
Yeah.
designed to visualize these future histories, specifically 2025 from their 1975 lens. It was meant to help them see beyond, the day-to-day assumptions.
But it wasn't just plug and play, was it? The sources say it required something specific to even work.
Exactly. It needed real nexus thinking. And they define that pretty clearly. Interdisciplinary systems thinking, learning with all parts of your brain and all aspects of human personality and capacities, science, technology, engineering, art, math, and music. STEAM.
So using your whole brain, basically, not just the analytical part.
Absolutely. The sources even mention using specific sounds, musical chords, to open the portal. It suggests that deep engagement, even emotional and artistic, is vital for truly envisioning and maybe even creating the future.
It's about harnessing our full imagination, not just crunching numbers.
Precisely. And the portal showed them these starkly different potential 2025s. One, dry, food scarce. The other, green, clean, equitable, side by
So
side.
making it real.
Yeah, hammering home that message. The choices we make today will shape the world you'll grow up in. The simulation voice apparently said, you get to choose. You can envision the future you want.
Okay, so let's look at the first path they explored, logic 2. This idea of do less harm. Seems reasonable, right? In 75, students were thinking, okay, let's just slow down the bad stuff.
Right. Celebrating things like the new Clean Air and Water Acts, thinking about ideas from people like Dick Gregory, pushing for urban gardens, or Buckminster Fuller's concepts of smarter design, efficiency.
Moving away from that old, more, faster, bigger idea, logic 1, they called it.
Yeah, a definite shift. The hope was if we just make things less bad, we'll naturally end up somewhere better. But the portal showed the limits, big time.
How so? What was the first scenario?
Well, one simulation jumped them to South Los Angeles in 2025. The students back in 75, they'd imagined maybe soul food gardens, something joyful like Sesame Street.
And the reality.
Stark contrast. The portal showed an asphalt jungle, a concrete desert, pawn shops, liquor stores, fast food chains, people looking tired.
Yeah.
None of that hoped for green space or vibrancy.
Wow. So the lesson there is doing less harm doesn't automatically create good things.
Pretty much. It showed how Logic 2, even with good intentions, could still leave you with these urban landscapes lacking healthy food, green spaces, basically perpetuating inequalities. Stopping the negative isn't the same as building the positive.
Okay, that's sobering. What about another Logic 2 example? You mentioned biofuels.
Ah, yes. Biofuels. The food as fuel idea.
Yeah.
Growing corn, sugarcane for ethanol, biodiesel. On the surface, it looked brilliant, right?
Yeah, reduce fossil fuel dependence, renewable energy, help farmers. Checks a lot of boxes.
Seemed like it.
Okay.
But what did the 2025 portal show? Massive monocultures of corn in Iowa just for ethanol. Huge sugarcane plantations in Brazil. And then the hidden costs started piling up.
Like what?
Environmentally,
Hmm.
huge amounts of pesticide and fertilizer runoff from those monocultures, creating dead zones like in the Gulf of Mexico. And they use immense amounts of water.
So the solution for fuel actually creates new environmental problems. That
Oh,
sounds counterproductive.
it's a classic case of siloed thinking, yeah. And socially, land used for fuel isn't growing food. So you get these awful trade-offs, contributing to hunger issues.
While people are still going hungry.
Exactly. And even the energy balance was questionable. You still need lots of fossil fuels for the tractors, the fertilizers. Corn ethanol, for instance, barely breaks even energetically when you account for everything.
And in places like Brazil.
Sugarcane was displacing vital ecosystems, rainforests, the Cerrado savanna, critical habitats, gone. Plus, impacting water tables, making them sink.
So the lesson from biofuels, focusing on one problem like fossil fuels, can just create a cascade of new problems elsewhere if you're not looking at the whole nexus.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
You overlook these deeper nexus consequences. Food, water, ecosystems, they all got hit.
The sources also mentioned Professor Culthane had this really provocative idea. Energy is waste. What was he getting at there?
Yeah, that's a mind bender. He argued that a lot of what we consider economical energy, natural gas, coal, hydropower, even early solar and wind, sometimes they were only seen as viable because the inputs were treated as nuisances, or worse, the negative consequences were just ignored.
Ignored how?
Things like black lung from coal mining, acid rain, CO2 emissions, those were treated as externalities, somebody else's problem, not factored into the actual cost of the energy.
So even when we try to manage waste better, Logic 2 can still miss the point, like with waste-to-energy plants.
Right. The portal showed a sort of improved Logic 2 waste and energy plant in 2025. It was doing more sorting, using anaerobic digesters for biogas, gasification for cleaner syngas, capturing heat. It even had this AI character, Smogus Pocus, bragging about efficiency
Sounds better at least.
on the surface. But Culthane pointed out the greenwashing. You still had toxic residues from filters needing disposal, contaminated retention ponds nearby, land still being cleared somewhere to make space for it all. His point was stark. All of these alternatives are still profit-oriented first, allowing somebody somewhere to suffer.
So Logic 2 struggles to eliminate new kinds of waste and often puts profit ahead of people and planet health.
That's the critique, yeah. It optimizes within a flawed frame, often.
Which leads to another really tough question the sources raise. Is water becoming the new oil? A source of conflict?
The 2025 portal definitely painted a concerning picture there. It showed the Helmand-Hammond Basin on the Afghanistan-Iran border, basically a dry lake bed. You heard sirens, reports of hostilities linked to water access, fights over river flows.
And this idea of virtual water?
Yeah, that was striking. Shipping away things like huge bales of alfalfa grown in arid regions. You're essentially exporting the massive amounts of water it took to grow them.
That sounds completely unsustainable. What's the Logic 2 trap there?
It's what they call the season ration approach, treating water purely as a commodity. So you see things like militarizing wells, building ever longer canals, massive desalination plants, privatization of water sources, exporting more and more virtual water.
All treating water like something to be owned and controlled, not part of a cycle.
Exactly. It breaks the natural circulation, leads to scarcity, conflict. It fails to, as the sources put it, replumb the hypersea.
The hypersea. Okay, tell me more about that term. What is the hypersea?
Think of it as like Earth's entire circulatory system of water. Not just rivers and oceans, but groundwater, soil moisture, water inside plants and animals, even clouds. It's all one interconnected, flowing system, the wet tubes of all life, essentially.
Wow. So Logic 2 tries to manage bits and pieces in isolation.
Often, yeah, as a resource to extract our own.
Right.
But the Hyper-C concept says, nope, it's all connected, mess with one part, you affect the whole flow.
Okay, so if Logic 2, do less harm, has all these pitfalls, we need Logic 3, make things ever better. That sounds much more proactive.
It is. It's a fundamental shift. Purpose-driven design aligned with the common good. But there's a catch, even with Logic 3. The portal showed a really important lesson about how you implement it.
What happened?
Well, the students, back in the simulation, they tried to implement some cool Logic 3 ideas in 2025, things like building beaver dam analogs to restore streams, planting mangroves to protect coasts.
Sounds great. Logic 3 in action.
But they made a critical error. They bypassed the local stakeholders. They didn't talk to the Farmers Water Users Association, the Road Authority, the Coastal Fishers Union, the indigenous guardians who had traditional rights, the city utility.
Uh-oh, I have a bad feeling about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. The results were not what they intended. The beaver dams, they caused culverts to overflow and flooded a school bus route.
Oh no.
The mangrove planting, bulldozed. Turns out there was an emergency seawall order already in place for that area.
Yeah.
And the indigenous guardians, they just locked the gates to the sacred mudflats the students wanted to use.
So complete gridlock. What did the portal say?
Flashed a big message. Governance failure detected.
Government's failure, so even the best ecological idea fails if you don't bring people along.
Precisely. The sources use this great analogy. It's like an orchestra. Nexus thinking isn't a solo performance. You need everyone. Elders, guardians, workers. Even considering the species involved, you need the whole chorus if you don't have that collaboration.
The system just defaults back to the old way, back to Logic 2.
That's what the simulation showed. Even if you're trying for Logic 3, collaboration is non-negotiable.
Okay, with that collaboration, what does Logic 3 actually look like? Let's see some successful examples. You mentioned water as landscape.
Yes, this is sponge logic. Instead of just getting rid of water, it's about slow it, spread it, sink it, store it, then share it.
How do you do that?
It's about designing our landscapes to absorb water. Think rain gardens, bioswales, permeable pavements so water can soak in, not just rush away. It's using ancient wisdom too, like cisterns and aqueducts, but also modern stuff like fog harvesting. There's an amazing project, Darseech Mod in Morocco.
Capturing water from fog.
Yeah. And even simple things like reusing the condensate water from air conditioners. It all adds up.
And the portal showed a real place doing this, Tamara, Portugal.
It did. And it was apparently stunning. A water retention landscape. They used earthbank lakes, swales, terraces, huge reforestation efforts, all designed to hold rainwater, let it soak deep into the ground.
And the effect.
It raised the water table, fed springs year-round, even in dry seasons. It literally transformed a desertifying slope into a working sponge, created cool microclimates, brought back biodiversity.
A landscape drinking like a sponge. That's such a different way of thinking than just building bigger pipes or dams.
It's a total mindset shift, from control to cooperation with the water cycle, designing for infiltration, for regeneration, and the insight is profound. Water is food and energy because water is landscape.
Explain that connection more.
When you restore the landscape's ability to hold water, you stabilize groundwater, you create reliable springs, you support agriculture, you cool the air, which reduces energy needs. It unlocks this cascade of benefits. It's not just H2O as a commodity, it's the lifeblood woven into the place itself.
Okay, that makes sense. And Logic 3 also rethinks ecosystem services. The sources call it nexusness.
Right, nexusness. It's moving beyond seeing nature as just a, vending machine providing services for us. It integrates what they call an ecology first, or EC1 principle.
Ecology first. What does nexusness actually stand for or guide you to do?
It's an acronym for action. You notice the deep connections. You enmesh all the stakeholders, human and non-human. You internalize the externalities that were ignored before. You actively unleash co-benefits across different systems. And you safeguard the whole living system for the long haul.
So it's a framework for making decisions that consider the whole web.
Exactly. And a key tool for this, revealed in the sources, is evaluating projects using two ledgers.
Two ledgers, like accounting books.
Sort of. But one is the standard money ledger costs, yields, hydropower output, irrigation benefits, the usual economic stuff. But the other is the crucial life ledger.
What goes on the life ledger?
Things like, how does this affect wildlife migrations, sediment flows needed downstream, sacred sites or cultural ceremonies? What are the impacts on future water availability, biodiversity, the health of the whole system?
And the rule is?
A project has to pass both ledgers. If it fails, either one, if it's bad for the ecosystem or culturally damaging, even if it looks profitable, it gets sent back. Redesigned until it works for both life and money.
That's revolutionary, actually. Are there real-world examples of this?
Absolutely. The sources point to New York City's Catskill, Delaware watershed. Instead of building hugely expensive filtration plants, they invested in protecting the upstream ecosystem health, the forests and lands that naturally filter their water. It worked and saved billions.
So investing in nature paid off financially too, past both ledgers.
Exactly. And another powerful example is the Wanganui River in New Zealand. It's been granted legal personhood.
A river, as a person, legally.
Yes, with indigenous and state-appointed guardians. Now, any project impacting the river must consider its well-being, its life ledger, alongside human needs. It forces that deep integration of values, making sure society works with the ecosystem, not just on it.
So Logic 3 is really about weaving these ecological, social, and economic threads together, which leads to this idea of dreamweavers.
Yeah, that's the ultimate aspiration presented. Becoming dreamweavers, people who can see those invisible connections, the patterns in the Nexus, and then actively stitch the systems together to make them stronger, more resilient, more beautiful.
And the portal gave the students a glimpse of places where this weaving is happening, like eco-villages.
It did, a quick tour. Back to Tamra in Portugal, seeing their water landscape creating cool air and flowing springs. Then to the Rosebud Continuum in Florida,
What were they doing there?
closing loops, turning organic waste into biogas and fertilizer, even taking stuff considered unrecyclable plastic waste and making useful building materials like trashcrete. Really innovative.
Wow. Any others?
Dummenher in Italy, focusing on braiding culture and ecology, using those two ledgers for every decision. Suderman Eco Village in Sweden, stacking solutions, community biogas, solar power, rain capture, local food, open governance, showing how multiple Logic 3 approaches reinforce each other.
It sounds like these places are living laboratories for Logic 3. And the AI guides from the portal, they transform too.
They did. They became these sort of companionable guardians. Hypercaesar for water, Smogus Pocus and Residue for waste and energy, Ness and Ledger for the ecosystem society balance. Each offered a piece of wisdom like stitch the tubes or price what you can, protect what you must.
And witnessing all this, the students in 1975, they made a vow.
A collective vow, yeah. It was powerful. We will weave flows, stage cascades, map consent, and count with two ledgers. We will act only when at least two systems are better now and none are worse later. We will invite the chorus before we play.
That really sums up Logic 3, doesn't it? Holistic, collaborative, regenerative, thinking about immediate and future impacts, always involving everyone.
Beautifully put. That's the core of it.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, the sources leave us with this powerful idea that the future, these different world lines, they're awaiting vision.
Right. It's not predetermined. The idea is that we influence which possibility becomes real, not just by observing, but by envisioning. By the future, we actively imagine and work towards.
It reminds me of that quote, "The weave unravels when our imaginations do."
Exactly. Logic 3 demands imagination. It refuses to settle for just less harm or even no harm. It consciously chooses to make things ever better. It's a creative act.
So the final thought for you listening. After exploring these potential futures, these different logics, what world line are you choosing to collapse with your vision? What's your first stitch? How can you start being a dream weaver right where you are?
Because the future isn't just something that happens to us. It's being woven right now by the choices we make, the futures we dare to imagine.
Keep those metaphorical Nexus goggles on. Don't just study the Nexus.
May the Nexus.